Hey everyone, I've been looking forward to working on this project for a while. Let's see what we've got. In the original case, a Shopmate circular saw. There's some blades and stuff down there. Let's see what we've got. Rose spear. Well, that kind of dates it to the 80s right there. That's when that was put in there. Oh, whoa, look at that. We've got the original ripper guard, which is nice. Those are very hard to come by. More rusty blades and two nails. But anyway, so I got this at the flea market and it's pretty dirty, kind of rusty. Looks complete. Says 7-inch. Probably can take a 7 1/4 blade. But the one thing I know, the guy said it doesn't work. Well, we've got a bum cord, that's for sure. Good strain relief, bad cord, and the switch is clearly faulty. But we've worked on switches like this before, so I'm confident we can get this thing going again. So first things first, let's get set up and let's get this opened up. Here's where our cord's gonna go, and here's where we're gonna get a look at the switch. And if that all works out, I think we'll be able to clean this thing up nice. This looks like it came from the factory with a pretty bright metal finish on it. So I think we're gonna be able to clean it up. And look at how nice the tags are. So this thing, you know, has a lot of potential. Looking great. I mean, it's still got old sawdust on it, so somebody was using it right up until the end, and they didn't bother cleaning it up either. All right. So that's our challenge for today. It's gonna be fun. I'm looking forward to it. Let's get busy. Let's take this guy off, get it out of the way. And let's see what we've got to deal with here behind these screws. So I did a little research on this brand. I couldn't find much about it, but one of the interesting things I learned was that these could be had by sending in S&H green stamps. If you know what those are, that kind of dates you. I'm sure they were sold at other places, hardware stores and the like, possibly Western Auto Supply even. If you'll recall, the Shopcraft or whichever drill that I worked on with my neighbor, that's the same manufacturer as this, Portable Electric Tools Incorporated. Well, they weren't kidding with these screws. They certainly didn't want them to come out easy. I can see there appears to be some type of Loctite in there or something. All right, is that it? Let's see what's in here. Okay. Well, we had some sawdust. It's to be expected. There's our wires coming in. Black, white, green. These wires look okay. The switch is not broken the way I thought it would be, but it was caked in. What was that? Was that rubber? There was a piece of rubber in there. I don't know what it was for. Was that all? Okay, so it seems to me, this is pretty funny. I don't know where that little piece of rubber went that was in there. It seems to me that the only thing wrong with this switch was there was a weird piece of rubber. Maybe it came off the strain relief that was jammed inside there. Because that seems to be working fine now. You see, mechanically, it's not bent. The pin's there like we saw on that drill. That is hilarious. Where did that piece of rubber come from? Is it in here? Is that rubber? No, that feels like plastic. Where's that piece? I took the piece of rubber out and it disappeared somewhere. I don't know where it went. Here it is. Well, that's definitely... So this is a piece of rubber that came out of this switch. It looks like it was there. I don't know why. Was it to hold this in place? You got me. Got me, but this switch appears to, mechanically at least, work fine now. So if that was it, it was that piece of rubber was jamming this, then what we really need to do is address this power cord. I don't think we're going to be able to reuse this strain relief because it seems to be all part of one. But that was pretty cool, pretty easy. So let's get a new power cord. Let's clean, vacuum this stuff out, and get a strain relief and see if we can get this thing wired back up and get it ready to go. I'll be right back. I think I've got everything I need here. Should be pretty easy to do this, actually. Take our ground off. I gotta get a better screwdriver that's a little bit more correct for this, for these screws. All right, let's vacuum this out real quick. Okay, in our black and white. This goes here. I've got a strain relief. Let's see if it's going to be big enough. Yep, it's good strain relief. I'll cut these long for now. Gets rid of this. I wonder if this was the original cord. Likely. So what we've got for this is, I've actually got a great cord I got. This is going to be a red cord to kind of match it. I think it's about a 10-footer. I'll just keep most of it wrapped up for now. Now, very carefully, see how much wire I'm going to need beyond the strain relief. Depends on where I want to cut it. probably not that much. So very carefully, we're going to just press lightly and take the outer insulation off. So you just got to be patient, a few turns. Don't press hard on this, or else you'll cut into the wires inside, and you definitely don't want to do that. Very close. Okay. Alright, let's strip these ends. Luckily, we got a lot of room in this handle. Makes it a lot easier to work with. Okay, so there's this small ring. That'll do fine. You're just going to crimp this on. And again, this is a red. So on our crimp tool, we're going to use red. Okay. Might actually be too long. All right, we're going to redo this. I'm going to shorten this guy up because I want the red in there, but I think I did that a little bit too. Let's shorten that guy up a little bit. Okay, take these guys, give us our approximate length here to reconnect these. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to use these solder connections. I'm using those because we've got a lot of room in here. That's going to make it easier to work on. So these will come up, these will come here. Didn't twist that wire. Why did I got that one stabbing me? slide these on top of it. There. So this is your band of solder on these. So you slide it so the solder is right where you want it. And I have this preference where once I do that, I kind of just crimp it a little bit to kind of hold it where I want it to be. So when I hit it with the heat gun, there's no movement. I got the heat gun here. Alright, I'll let that cool off for a minute. So this is not WD-40 product, but it's contact cleaner for switches and electrical parts. Dries very fast. In fact, you can feel it on your fingers, how cold it gets. I think we'll just do a last inspection on these wires. Good. All right, I think we're ready to put this thing back together and see if it works. I'm gonna move these yellow wires out a little bit. It'd be amazing if that switch works just like that. You know, before I do this though, I'm gonna clean this switch up a little bit. Kind of done with these. All right, we're gonna jump the gun here and jump to a kind of polishing step. And the only reason I'm doing this is because I'm confident this thing's gonna work. I don't know why I'm so confident, but so all I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna clean this switch up a little bit. I'm just going to use some polish and steel wool. Just because having it out like this makes it a lot easier to clean up than if it were mounted inside. And I believe this thing is going to clean up pretty easy. This is not plated or anything. In fact, when it comes to these switches, this is not exactly the highest quality one of these switches I've seen. The metal on this seems to be a little thinner even than on the old drills, which is kind of surprising. All right, these screws are pretty rusty. So pretty clear this thing has sat in a moist environment, so we're going to wire brush these screws. There's a great before and after, and this is why I do this, because it saves a lot of time to get here before, right there, and then after. Hopefully you can see that. We're getting close to when we can try this thing out and see if it actually does work. I haven't greased it or anything, but you know, I don't think kicking it over for a second is going to make much of a difference. Whew, there's a lot of grime in there. I'm almost debating if I should polish these parts up separately while I've got them apart. At the very least, I can take a lot of the corrosion. This thing definitely had water. It was not in a dry environment. No way. Let's put this thing back. Make sure this thing is right. Doesn't quite feel right. That looks right, that looks right. I guess we got these wires a little. Everything's right except for right on the switch. It seems to have a problem. I don't think it's the switch wires. They seem to all be fine. There we go. All right, we are back together, wired in with our strain relief. Oh, the switch is still sticking. Okay, that's interesting. So we got a glitch here. The switch was working perfectly and now it's sticking again. That's interesting. I wonder what would be doing that. Oh, back out. Was hoping it was going to be as easy as I thought, but it's not. Maybe when I put it together I did something wrong. The switch is definitely not operating properly. Aha, there it goes. So, I had it too tight? Really possible? Doesn't seem right to me. Look at that. How interesting is that? But if you look, it's not tight enough here. I do not have that screw in enough. So let's see what we can do here. Something on this screw is, on the switch, catches when this thing is tight. It's a challenge, but I think we should be able to see what it is. It could possibly be a design flaw within this thing. That manifested itself years later. But when it's loose, the switch works fine. But when you tighten it down, the switch sticks. I don't know. This is pretty... I don't see how that can really be. What is grabbing it? I can't see that it's anything here. I should have done this ahead of time, anyway.
What is grabbing this switch? Is it that holds it? That holds it? Maybe it's tightening it in here? Aha, it could be that it's putting pressure down in that end. Let's try it again. But, so you recall when I first started putting the screws in, I could feel pressure here. Like something was catching. And I think I can see it. This peg right here is pushing right up against this and bending it down a little bit. So, I think very carefully I can take a little bit off of this peg right here and it won't push on the switch. So this peg here is pushing on the switch. So all I'm going to do, I'm going to just kind of file a very little bit of it off and give myself a little bit more room in there. As to why this is suddenly a problem with this, I can't answer that. Other than what I said. Design flaw. All right, let's try that. Look at that. I think we got it. And there's number 4. Okay. Well, I gotta say that's an interesting solution there that I've never seen before. Let's see if it worked. There you go. Switch works fine. All right, let's unplug this guy. Let's see about getting the guard off and getting the blade off and maybe greasing this guy. So to take the blades off these, essentially what I do, since it doesn't seem to have a spindle lock anywhere, is I just put the blade on a piece of wood. Push down and see if it goes this way. It does. This is interesting. Usually it's a nut. This one it's a bolt. Let's see. Alright, I see a screw there. I see a screw here, but it's not holding this on. There it is. It was so caked with sawdust I couldn't see the other screw. That's hilarious. Just did not look like there was a second screw there. I knew it had to be something simple. Alright, we gotta be careful of how the spring mechanism is. right, this thing here has got to go. It's in my way. Let's just do it this way. All right, 2 screws and we should be able to see the grease. Let's vacuum that out first. You don't want to get any sawdust in there. Alright, we got 1, 2, 3 screws to get into where the grease is. Sorry, I wasn't aimed exactly ideally here. Let's take these 3 screws out, see what's in there. I believe this is around 1950s, possibly 60s. These are always very tough to figure out what era they're from or what year, because there's not much info on this. Okay, again, very carefully. Look at what's in here. Well, isn't that interesting? So, this thing is sealed. Again, let's take some sawdust out. Alright, there's 2 screws, one here, one here. It didn't allow me to get to where it needs to be greased. So now I'm taking these 4 out, which should help split it. I'm gonna have to get this guard out of the way. Funny, it's hard to even see the screws in this because it is so caked with sawdust. But this, I would have to say, is not particularly maintenance friendly, this one. It doesn't really come apart, obviously, for how you would grease it. But anyway, that's where we're at. I'm going to continue disassembly here. Everything has to stick on this. You know, hopefully I can remember how this thing all goes back together, because I am taking off a lot of parts. One of the benefits of videos. This is the one and only flathead screw I've come across. Don't know why this one is flathead. Certainly the fact that this was in a damp environment isn't helping any of this. Alright, let's get this guard out of the way, and I'll put this guy back in just so I know where it's supposed to go later. Put this guy back on because it didn't make any difference what I was doing. Okay. I'm completely out of the way. And I don't think I'll use this much. I just feel like it's something I should do. Alright, let's see if there's anything in here that's helping to hold it together. Oh, we got 2 screws. So, yeah, we got 2 screws in here. That I believe are holding the handle on, which is holding the body together. Any other screws in there? No. Anything else holding the handle on? Anything else holding this together? Seems like it. I don't know what, but something is. Let's take these guys off too. This is really turning into a project. Okay, handle is completely off now. Got a little leeway here. I've got it opening up. So we may have everything that we needed to get off. I'm worried the brushes, everything's gonna come flying out of this thing when I pop it open. And the top wants to come off instead, okay? I'm not adverse to which end comes off first. Whew! And there are 2 more screws. That's... Alright, so, can you see this? Let's get a close-up. This is pretty interesting. This thing was used a lot. I'm kind of glad I took it apart to this level, because look at how caked in the dirt is. So there's 2 more screws in here. That's how we're going to get to the... Look at how caked that is. But these 2 screws are how we're going to get to the grease. Let's vacuum this thing up. Get more of this dirt out. Whew. I just hope I can remember how it goes back together. Because this thing is going to work like new when we're done. Wow. It seems the more that I would scrape, the more would show up. Crazy how caked this thing is. So, it saw a lot of use. I need a better screwdriver. I don't want to get stuck on that one. I want the exact screwdriver for this guy because this one does not want to come out and I do not want to strip it. Jeez. Come on. Seriously. These are not great screws by any stretch. Whew, got it. Okay. Gotta make sure you get the right bit sometimes. What am I doing with these guys? Alright, so hopefully that means we can now grease this thing. I can't imagine there's another screw in there, but this is pretty tricky. No, okay. Real careful because the motor's going in here. I saw that one screw hanging right there. Crazy, absolutely crazy. I can see in there. But it doesn't want to release it. So something else is holding it. Let's see what the grease is like in there. Looks like the motor itself is holding it. It wants me to take the whole motor out. I'm hesitant to do that. There's a whole bunch of screws, two here, two here, two here for the rear bearing. Ooh, this guy. This one is a challenge. It's odd that it's set up that way, but this whole thing is kind of odd. Can I get grease in there? Let's see something. Can I put grease in here without... Why is that? If it wasn't so caked with sawdust, I may be able to see what's going on in here. Alright, I guess I'm committed now. Let's take off this rear bearing and see if we can dislodge the motor. I am never going to remember where all these screws go. Ah, the magnet in this thing's out, so it's making it a little difficult. Probably not the best driver for me to be using here. this. Just look at how caked this thing is. This thing must have seen an incredible amount of use. It's crazy. Everything is just caked. So I needed to get oil in here anyway, so that's good. But is that going to help me get the motor out, or am I going to have to go in here? Because we've got more screws, I think, in here, but I don't know what they're actually doing. I hate to... There, okay, good, okay. This is tricky, though. I don't want to lose the brushes or anything. Reset that. You know, I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get some electrical cleaner and I'm just gonna flush this thing because there's just so much gunk here. But let's see if I can at least look where the grease is going to go. Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay, I can get grease in there now. And I don't see much, but I can see a little. Let's take a little bit of this grease out and see. Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna carefully dig the grease out and then repack it. There's surprisingly little grease in here, but I do have a chunk coming out right there. You know it's bad when you can just take it out in giant pieces like that. But there's really very little grease in here. I suppose I should give you a close-up of what I'm looking at in here. Alright, I got a flashlight on there. Let's see if I prop this up. Not tough to see even still. You can kind of see the gear in there. And there's a reservoir for grease, which I've dug out most of the grease. And now I'm going to use the grease gun and fill it back up again. I'm sorry I can't give you a better picture of it. Maybe if I can hold it up like that, I can shine the light inside it. There you go. So you can see there's a, if you can see that, there's a pretty deep reservoir in there for the grease. But there's almost none in there. I took very little grease out. In fact, the reservoir itself looks pretty clean. So let's pack it and seal this thing up before I forget how it all goes back together. I think I've already forgot most of it. This isn't going to be easy either, because there's no easy way to get this gun all the way in there. get on the other side now. We can get in here as well. We can. Still spins freely. You guys go back in there. Good. Okay, so let's look at this rear. This will need oil, but what I'm going to do now going to kind of put this thing back down, and then I'm going to wash this thing with electrical cleaner to try to get all this gunk out. It's just too much, and then I'll go back in and oil this because the cleaner will just wash the oil out anyway. So for this purpose, can we see what we're putting at? So for this, I'm going to use QD electronic cleaner, and all I'm going to do is just put it about this. There's not much else I can do. Just let it run into this thing. It's just crazy how bad this thing is. Well, looks a little better. This stuff dries quick. This can's empty. Whew. All right. Now let's put some oil on this. Okay, so here's the spindle right here. Gonna put some oil in there. I'm using straight 30 weight. I'm gonna put some oil inside here. And now what we're gonna do with the motor, because we sprayed a lot of gunk on here, we're gonna use this. It's dry lube. So this is good for motors. It will dry. It'll clean it a little bit, but mostly it's going to lubricate the motor itself in here. And I'll just roll the brushes out. Again, you do not use WD-40 for this. Just put a little bit more oil in here. Okay. Clean this out a little bit more. And I kind of knew this one was going to be an adventure, but I did not know it would be like this. The real test is once I get this whole thing together, if it still works. I know we had it working. Okay, I got one last can of this stuff. I'm just going to use it to clean out all this junk. But before I do that, even I can cut. Some of this stuff is really caked in there. Like in that. Honestly, it's like somebody must have used this to build houses and build many of them. Now let's clean it out. I took about 2/3 of that can. So, what I'm thinking of doing at this point is actually debating if I should start cleaning this thing up. Ooh, that's cold. That spray is cold. If I should start polishing this with it apart. I don't like doing that, so I don't think I'm going to do that. I'm going to put it back together and see what we can do. All right, so let's see if we can remember how this thing goes back together. Good. I went back and reviewed some of the video to make sure I was putting the screws in because I wasn't sure about these guys. I did polish up these heads. Let's put the handle back together. It's always a problem when you got to disassemble them to this degree. Let's hope all this still is fine. I jostled it around quite a bit in this process. All of that just to grease it, but it really needed grease. Good. Good. My fix there seems to have held really well. These should be pretty obvious because they are polished, because I polished them. Okay, we're tight. Brushes in. Switch feels good. Let's plug it in, see if it works now. Get that grease worked in there a little bit. All right, we are now in essentially cosmetics phase. All right, this is probably a good point where I'll stop the video. I don't usually like to do two-part videos on tool restorations
However, this guy really put me through the ringer, and I've at this point probably been at it for 3 to 4 hours, and I'm just about to get to the cosmetics phase. But this is a good guide to show you what you need to do if you have one of these Shopmate tools and what you're going to be up against when you try to bring it back. So we've got the switch fixed. Interesting problem and interesting fix. We've got it rewired. We've got it greased up. It's actually now a completely usable tool. I'd probably change the blade, and then you could just put it back into service. So we're going to take on the cosmetics, and I'm even going to work on the wooden crate in part 2. But, you know, I think this was a challenge, but it ended up working out well. And wait till you see what it looks like when I'm done with polishing it. I mean, it's well worth it, well worth it. So if you like this sort of content, hopefully you found this useful. Please like and subscribe. That's really important. Helps the channel grow. I think we've hit 900 subscribers, which is fantastic. And, you know, if you have one of these Shopmates or another saw or drill or something like that you want to restore, hey, you can do it. I did it. I never touched one of these before. Don't be intimidated. Just go out, get busy. Take care.